So here are the pieces for the elevator. And there's the wood, and you can see the wood is grained at a diagonal. That's so they supposedly, I'm hoping they won't warp. We'll see if that's true or not. You can see there the thickness. The top one's been thinned, the bottom one hasn't. So I have to thin the other side. And then these are what the paper skins look like. You can see there's a flap that's cut, it's bent over. And there's another one right there. And there's another one on the corner right here. You can barely see that's bent. And those are bent over at right angles. And they are going to glue to the piece of wood. And then I've burnished or made a little slot there in the middle so that I can fold the pieces of paper over. So you put your piece of wood up against the hinge line there, right there, and that's where that's going to fold over, and that's why it has to be thinned, because otherwise that won't work. So to be complete, because I didn't show you the tails, the stabilizer, or the rudder, here I am thinning it out. The one side was too thick, just to show you the difference, and so the sanding is very important to get it to the right, or you use the correct thickness in the first place, which I didn't. But you have to sand this and keep checking it, just like we did with the fuselage parts way back. And just make sure it's correct, and make sure it's even thickness all the way around. And you just keep playing until you get it. Then you need to round off the edges, or at least make them thinner, is what I did on all sides, so that there won't be a harsh transition when you glue on the paper. Otherwise, you'll get a step, and that just doesn't look very good. I actually got kind of a step on my fin, or my rudder, and my stabilizer. So once I got that the way I like it, add a little tacky glue, smear it out evenly. Those little lines you see that are printed on there, those are for like wire that they want you to put in. I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to glue it directly to the hinge line on the stabilizer in a grouped position ultimately. Then you add this, and I make sure that the little pointy tip on the left there is far enough over so that when I fold this over, that little top L piece will fold in there for a place to go. And then, of course, I make sure that I put some glue along the hinge line fold there so that I can then and there I'm putting a little glue on the other piece that needs to attach onto the wood part. And then I smear a little bit of glue over the rest of the elevator and smooth it out. Too much glue will make things all wet, even though this is this isn't like Elmer's glue per se, but it's close. But now you squeeze it together. You make sure everything is lined up, which it is. Again, this model is tremendous that way. And you just make sure, see, I'm forcing those to be vertical and end up smashing against the pieces of wood. And then I burnish a little bit too in both directions. And I see on the edges, I got a couple places there where I'm going to need to do a little bit of work. Didn't quite, and that's probably my cutting job, they don't quite match up, and or they're a little bit wonky. So they need to be rolled over a bit. Again, it's less important because we're going to actually paint all this. This is something I really don't need to do, but again, to reiterate, color your edges, unless you're someone who likes the look of the edges. That's certainly preference for whoever wants to do it any way they like. It's your model. Now these are the control horns, and they come printed, and you fold them in the middle. You score it, and you put some glue, and you fold them in the middle, and then let them dry. And while they're drying, we'll do a couple other things. And what that does is give you a double side of, the double thickness. And there they are. And we'll set them aside, let them dry. And then I cut them apart and color the edges on those, and then we'll stick them on there, on the elevators. Now, the edges need a little bit of sanding. When we prime all this, it no doubt will need more sanding. But that is how it's going to fit. So what I did was I just put a little dab of glue here and there because I wanted to put them on here to see how it looks. And also when I start priming and things, and really when I start to glue, really paint it, since we're going to be brush painting part of this camouflage like the Fokker factory did. I want those elevators on there, but I want to see how it looks, and it looks pretty cool. There they are, both on, and I've added the control horns, and I pointed out here with my knife. You can see them right there, and so they will ultimately have, when I'm all done, they'll have wires, easy line elastic going into those control shroud holes. And I'm kind of bending the stabilizer down because I'm noticing it's kind of curved when I look at it. But there's time to fix all that. But you can see that, generally speaking, the whole tail end looks pretty good. And it will look even better when we prime it and paint it, get it really set up nice. And so here I put on the rudder, the comma rudder, so you can see what the whole rear end looks like, except for I don't have the bottom struts on. But you can see how the whole thing looks all the way around. Just to give you a feel for what the rear end of the airplane is going to look like. Looks like a Fokker triplane to me. Very pleased with that. Indeed. Now, I want to show you a little bit about the interior here. Those are tiny little pieces of wire, and then those are masking tape shoulder harnesses. Because I put these on, I lost the videos, so I'm trying to just point out things I did rather than show you everything from scratch because it's too late. I'm sorry. I messed up. I made myself an altimeter. There's supposed to be an altimeter dial there, so I did that, hung it up there. I moved what was on the one side down to the floor because that's supposed to be a compass. And so in the real airplane, it was down on the floor on the right side. So I did that. I also removed that pump that we worked so hard on that because it turns out the triplane didn't have one. So I removed that. But adding the altimeter and doing that looks good. Now on the joystick, I put a little bit of that glue that I'm using on the edges. It made it a little bit fatter and bigger, and then painted them brown so they're wooden. And then I added 2 little paper triggers for the left and right triggers for the twin spandals when we put them on. Forgot to put Bowden cables in there, but overall, I don't know, it's looking pretty good. So we're going to be priming pretty dang soon.